We're live, and it's Friday, it's 5, and I want to thank you for joining me. I'm karenann McDonald, and it's been a couple weeks since we were on, but we have been so busy, and there's so much to update with you with. Obviously, there is tons of stuff going on around the planet. You guys are all, I think, a little on the anxious side because I've been getting lots of emails, from therapists and people that are concerned and not feeling well, and everything's coming down all at once, it seems, isn't it? But then we've been waiting for this, haven't we? So let's take a little bit of a step back, and we are going to bring in some really great times. We need to raise our vibration. We need to enjoy every moment that we're in. And this is the key. This is absolutely the key, is you got to treasure the moments that we have right in front of us. We have to treasure the people that we love. We got to treasure the people that are around us, and we have to have a little bit of faith in there is going to be something greater on the other side of this fence. So those are some of the things that we need to look at. So I'm going to ring in some of the really cool things. And, I think this is one of the things we're going to talk a little bit about frequency. We're going to talk about the hidden messages and voices. We'll talk about some of the recent shows I've been on, the interviews I had, and some of the most incredible people I've met in the last few weeks. So everything has a purpose, a time, and a season, and this is it. So for those people that have some tuning forks, get some tuning forks out, you guys. Get some essential oils. So I'm just going to ring this in. This is going to be a 432 and a 528. And I'm going to start doing some clearing because it's been that kind of a day. It's been that kind of a week. It's been that time of the month. Let me tell you, there's been so much changes. I don't even know where to begin. So if you've noticed some changes or different situations around you that you have questions for, let me know. Put them in the chat room because I can multitask. So one of the things I want to talk a little bit about is, let's talk about the voice. Let's talk about how important it is. I did a recent set of shows with Fiona Gardner, and on Facebook she goes by Fiona Philogy Gardner. And Fiona actually saw me on a show called Fade to Black back in 2016. We're talking 10 years ago. And because of listening to me and what I was saying on Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who did a lot of sort of similar things like Coast to Coast. And I was also on the Basis Project with Miles Johnson and, of course, Rex Barrett, the Leak Project. I did a lot of projects that year. And then, of course, that was the year that we launched actually what was called Project Incension. You didn't go ascending, you went inside. So it was an inner incension with Andrew Mallet and a few other guests that he had on over the years. So it was a busy year for me, almost a decade ago. So one of the things that was really amazing to see is that Fiona went and got a Genius Biofeedback, because I was talking about this incredible voice activated scan type of biofeedback, a little different than a plasma Rife, but we were going to use the voice. And the reason I wanted to bring it to your attention, because what does Fiona do? This is actually a really incredible thing here when you actually take a look at what this woman has done. So how many people have you have heard of Veda Austin? Because a lot of people with Veda Austin's work, Veda has been talking a little bit, well, not a little bit, but a lot about what's the hidden messages in water, kind of like Dr. Emoto. And so Veda's work has been showing basically that there's consciousness within the water and that the water has intelligence. Because if you haven't seen this is, it takes it to another level. Let's face it, there are so many things as we're knowing about consciousness and the inner technology that we have within us. So aside from stuff like that with the AI, let's talk about the inner stuff that we have. So when you take a look at, let's say, some of the different hidden messages that we talk about with, let's say, with what Fiona has here, is that you can see basically these inner messages in water. There's a whole language within it. And so what she was doing a lot of this with different people. So I want you to take a look and see what she's got, because there is so much stuff here, and when you take a look at the hidden messages in water, she's got so much to offer. So one of the other things is that we looked at Veda Austin. And so when you look at Veda Austin's and then move this over, then what you're going to see in here, and we'll just show a little bit here. This is, and again, if you're not aware of Veda Austin, I just want to bring it to your attention because this is a inner intelligence and consciousness. And it's more than just blessing our water, blessing the food, blessing the crystals. And then they were freezing it and looking under the microscope, very much like what Dr. Emoto was doing. And they are using a lot of this right now because she's been working a lot with autistic children. And there's a whole different level of communication. So when I went into talking with Fiona, it was the same type of thing because what she was now looking at not only was the water and what we call holographic technology. And so Dr. Mo's work with basically the water was showing us what was going on. And if you look at Dr. Emoto's work, right, and I think most people are aware about what we call the hidden messages, and it would actually transmute that water. So whatever we communicated, and it's always better to do it in your mother's tongue. In other words, go on your mother's side and whatever they were speaking probably 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, mitochondrial mother's tongue. That's the light language that we're doing. But what he found was the changes were phenomenal. And they started to reorganize a bit. It wouldn't completely reverse things, but you could see the reorganization in the patterns, which is why when Sabrina Wallace talks about piloerection or getting your mind to think about getting every hair standing up, it's the mind as the matter, because that's what you're doing. You're talking to the water, you're talking to, and you're giving them a command to stand up and to shield and to guard you, to put that protective bubble, to put the creator's, love around you, like, a cloak to warm us all. So that's what Dr. Emoto was talking about. So when we, what Fiona had, and that is something that I did at my actual website on YouTube. So this channel, if you go back, a few months ago, not that long ago, but a few months ago, you'll see that what we were talking about in here, and that hidden message is what she was trying to communicate here, because there is a soul and a vibration within there. And that particular frequency of what they're doing here is absolutely amazing, because there were so many things that communicated to her that we were seeing technology. She was seeing, you would take a picture of whatever it was and it would show up into the water. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. She did a picture of herself with her thumb up and it actually drew like a shadow outline of what she was doing. So this is a phenomenal video that I did. And I mean, I just like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely amazing. Like, people need to see this, because that is how powerful we are. And that's where the mind as the matter comes from. And so one of the things, I'm going to put that in the chat. We're going to put that in a link, and then you're going to be able to see that. So this is the that I did. I did 2 parts with Fiona. And I really want to give a shout out, because it's not just the water, it's the urine, it's the live blood, it's a sacred geometry. That's what we're talking about, is the fractals. It's almost like soul retrieval. So anything that was in there, you could see in the plasma, in the blood, in the urine. And again, most people don't realize, basically, your urine is basically 80-90% plasma. It's basically a residual byproduct of the blood. Okay, where fecal matter is actually dirty, the plasma is a little different. We actually did therapy and went down a whole bunch of rabbit holes in these talks. And what she felt, when I asked the question, because I've talked to people like Tony Pantalleresco and other people feel that, well, there could be nanotechnology. Why would you do that? And put in, this nano. And in her estimation, and in 10 years of looking at it, she said, is literally holographic sacred geometry, and is actually an anesthesis or an antidote to that. So I thought that was interesting. And then we talked about depleted deuterium water. So you're hearing a lot about hydrogen water and stuff like that. So if you haven't seen those pictures, I mean, do take a look at that. It was absolutely amazing. So I'm going to put that chat there. And of course, if you have any questions about anything that we're talking about, don't hesitate to put them in the chat room. And so we want to give a live shout out there. Love Life for Us is in. How are you doing? And so it's great to see you guys. So that is the Fiona Gardner information. And do take a look at her. You know, she doesn't do that many interviews, you know, and it's rare to get an interview with her. So I was like, holy geez, this is amazing. Because I think she's only done 3 or 4 interviews I've seen in probably 5-10 years. So do take a look at that, because, you know, it inspires people. It really does. One of the other videos I just did, a whole series of them. Oh, it's been really a busy couple of weeks. And then we'll talk about this while I'm trying to pack, move, and get on with my life too. We're in the middle of major transition. So all of us are having incredible transitions here. One of the other ones I did, I want to really bring a shout out here. And one of the actually did several videos this month here. One of them I'm going to show you is something called savage sovereignty. We're going to start talking about what this is. And so if you go back, there's one that I did a couple with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, who's one of the Navy intelligence guys here. So you can take a look at some of the stuff I did with Dr. Miller, because it has to do with pole shift. It has to do with the solar flash, the grand solar minimum, where you are, safe places, just in his experience that he's extrapolated over his 80-some years in there, and also to do with prepping, and especially in the gardening, you know, and agriculture, and what we need for food and water security. So if you take a look at some of those are some of the other things. I'm going to come back and I'll be doing some more on food and water security actually in here. And so what I did here is, you can see this one I did a couple weeks ago. It's called Savage Sovereigns. It was with one of the clan mothers, who's also known as Chief Miko. She's with the Choctaw Nation, for those of you that need a reformatting. That's basically over the Louisiana, Texas area. It's the southern part of the America's empire down there. Who we brought on with us was actually known as Eagle Eye Man. If you're on Facebook, his Facebook he set up is actually called Universal Writings of Mr. Meredith. He's known as Timothy Phillips, if you're trying to track him down, because I know a lot of people are really interested in this kind of information. And then Eagle Eye Man and I went and did another one here, and it was actually just amazing, because what happened when we went into this, we started talking about the great Musa. In other words, scripturally, you would know them as Moses, or the first 5 books of, as you think, the Old Testament. But when you go into, there's actually much more that have been uncovered and, of course, hidden. So we talked about those extra ones. But again, what it means and definition. So if you really want to be a sovereign, you're actually called as a savage, not as a person, not as a private, not as a public, not a member of there's no such thing as a citizen or state national. I mean, it's ridiculous how people have convoluted these terms over the years. So these are things that, you know, we're talking about. What's a savage, what's a person, and what's an inhabitant. So there's quite a bit of information there. I'd really like you to take a look through that, because there is so much to go through. And that's why, if you're on my Facebook today, I put some really interesting information. And that information, did anyone see that today? If you have in the audience, put your hands up. Let me know if you saw that, because what we were seeing is that basically on Facebook, I asked if anyone knew what their blood type was. And what I was looking for, I said, let's talk about clans, let's talk about tribes, and let's talk about our soul tribes. And so what I asked today was who knew what their blood type was. And I actually asked if, you know, and again, that's important. People need to know who you are, your genetics, your hololinguistics, and all that sort of thing. So if you know what the blood type is, and for example, mine is AB positive. And so where does that come from? How does that translate into light languages? You know, how does that translate into inheritance? How does that translate, period, for people? And it comes out of what's called the Ursuline blood type. So again, you know, if you don't know what actually your blood type is, we'll talk a little bit about it. It's called an Eldon card. It's basically a home do-it-yourself test. Okay, it's about $10. It's not much, you know, it's $10, and it's on Amazon.com. .ca. Canada doesn't want to contribute to this anymore, but we need to go into here. And I want to thank you again. So love for us, love life is for us in here, and Macaulay's in here, Corbin, and also the Quiet Dawn is in here. So I'm so glad you guys are joining us. It's been a few weeks, and I'll explain a little bit more why we're doing that. But let's go in, and I'm just going to talk about these hidden messages in the voice. But part of the voice, when we're talking about it, is programming. And part of that programming is who are we and what the blood is. When things come together in creation, kaboom, right? What's the first thing that is created? It's a drop of blood. And that was probably one of the most exciting things I ever learned from Dr. Robert Young, as we were talking about genetics, creation, why to study the blood, why to study the urine, because the urine is part of the plasma, which is part of the blood, right? And then how this all fits together. I went, this is just amazing technology. So let's get in to take a look at that. So why would we want to take a look at this? You know, what is it we need to learn? And so back into here, let's take a look at it. And it's not about eat for your blood type, even though there are so many things I do as integrative quantum. In here, what's really, really important, and by the way, see, they always tell you here, oh, look at, we've got 8 different types. Well, I'm going to tell you that's absolute bullshit. The reason why is because there's probably about close to 60. And there's a whole hidden 50 some of them, basically, that are hidden and stored and frozen. They don't want you to know about. This is the inner stuff here. This is the cult stuff. So they usually tell you we got some positives and some negatives, and maybe there's about 30 people, of which I know a couple, this planet. There's about 30 people. I know 2 of them, so that's a large part when you consider the whole population of the planet that have got what's called golden blood or RH0. And we were out today with some friends. I went out of town, and we were talking a little bit about this, and they said, well, everyone bleeds red. And I said, no, they don't. Because I have actually seen turquoise blue blood. I've actually seen an original progenitor bloodline that when it came out, oxidized with that incredible copper, it threw all the nursing staff into a, what my gosh happened. So I actually got to witness that. And so don't assume everyone, we always think we know everything, but we don't. I know that thing. I've learned the more we look at this, the more interesting it gets. So one of the things you can look at too, and like I said, how many people do not know who they are? And we're going to talk a little bit about this because it's going to come back, and you'll see how I'm going to bring this around within the next hour back into why I want to talk about hidden messages in water. Because you're going, why? Because there's a correlation in here. So if we look at what's called the blood, and you go to Eldon card, ELDON, it's like the Elohim, the whole entire thing. We won't get too much into that. But there is basically, as we're taking here, this is the home Eldon card. Again, available on Amazon, can be your friend. Amazon.com, not .ca. So go to Amazon. A lot of people are selling them for $20, $30, $50 I've seen, but it's a really simple procedure. You literally just prick your finger with this tiny little lamp on the card, and you put 4 drops of blood, and then you put solution, and boom, at least you'll know which one of the 8 you are somewhere. And then it said the breakdown. So very, very simple to do. Okay, very, very important, because we're going to talk about going into savage, sovereignty. And again, when you learn about hereditary, those RH positives were some of the most original nobility lines that they are before things have been hybridized or changed. So that's why it's very important to realize that a band and a reserve is not a nation. They like to make you think that there's 1 to 11, or they like to think that you've got hundreds of nations here of like original peoples, and it's far from it. They are aboriginal. And that's why I really want you to get into taking a look at this, because it's so, so important. There's something called the mtDNA. Okay, for those of you, it's called the mitochondrial, or the mitochondrial Eve, or the mitochondrial DNA. This means it's passed down from the mother to the mother to the mother. Okay, and we give it to the males, we give it to our females, and it's passed down usually from the oldest to the female. That's why for clan or tribal lineages, for the original queens, for the original matriarchs. If you think it's like the Magdalene or the Mary Magdalene or the whatever you think, the Marian bloodlines, whatever you want to go, is it was usually passed from the oldest female to the oldest female to the oldest female. If the oldest female could not do it, they would use the last in the line. And it's kind of like this is the original and the rest are carbon, okay? Slightly different in the genetics. So this is something that's traced on these what's called migration patterns. And that's where you go into the bloodline of how old is my bloodline? Why is the Shroud of Turin AB positive? Let's start thinking about this. So you start seeing about where these bloodlines were seeded and where the migrations have gone. And as we talk about the migration time, the pole shift, the ice age, this all ties into this. And you'll see where I'm going to go with all this. So if you haven't seen some of these mitochondrial maps, do take a look at it. That's why it's so important to do your own home genetics and do not rely on the government for testing. So really think it's really important to do that. Now, how are we going to translate this? So everyone's got a blood print. That's unique to you. Everyone has got a fingerprint, right? Your fingerprints are unique to you. That's why the government wants to have it. Anything they have for data or taking blood or cord blood, all of that stuff is, again, unique to you. And this is one of the things, that's why we're going to talk a little bit about why the voice is that we need to look at. Okay, so when you're taking a look at what's unique, okay, as I said, we have a fingerprint, okay, identifying each one of us. And again, there are things that people have done to mask it. There are biometric part. It's a very exciting type of field to go into because basically what's called voice imprinting. And voice imprinting, again, like I said, that's why they come out with so much AI. We're getting almost conditioned to see that artificial stuff is reality, and it's not on there. So when we start seeing, different things along the, why are we talking? What is the enunciation? What is the pitch? And what are these biomarkers? So how many people know that there are actual for that? Aware that your voice can be picked up anywhere to you just by your inflection or the voice imprints. And this is why I want to get into this, because this is a unique field of medicine. And it's been one of my favorite fields in here because it's unique to you. You are the creator. You get to co-create. And one of the things in here is the voice print. That's why people are trying to clone. You will never be able to fully clone or synthesize an original voice. Okay, and that biometric is an engine that's specific to you. And how you read these patterns or read these frequencies is just as exciting as someone taking your blood in the hospital. So all of these things are showing that we can now figure out emotional issues, mental issues, physical issues, even spiritual issues are being shown. And we're now showing that people, how you say, you sound tired today, or they just don't sound right. So this is a part of that voice imprinting spectral analysis. And as we actually go into biometrics, when we start doing the whole spectrogram of what a voice is, you'll see that A, E, I, O, U, all these things correlate to actually the DNA. And I don't know how many people know Greg Braden is. I just love Greg Braden. I've been watching Greg Braden. He's one of the few people, too, that is part Cherokee, part Asian. He's got that Hebrew background. He's got a unique background as a geologist, but he's got a very interesting perspective on the divine matrix. He's brought forward so many different things, even in doing the chanting. How many of you have seen that they've actually gotten rid of cancer just by using voice sound, almost like an ultrasound? And this is something that's very exciting. So when you actually see the voice of what Greg Braden is bringing to the table right now. Pretty, amazing. And again, I've been following him for a long time. And that voice is the positive thinking. It is what's your divine potential. And everything comes in here back to what he's showing is the voice is connected to what he calls the God, or what we call the creator, but to your DNA. And so one of those things in here, it's the God code, and that God code is still now hidden within the voice. And that what we have found is that that actually correlates to changing not only the DNA, but this gets back into reverse. And this is what we're going to take a look at. That's why I wanted to bring it to your attention, because my gosh, this is an exciting field of medicine. And I've, been in this field of medicine for just about 30 years now. So I am so excited here. So if you take a look at what Greg Braden is saying, how they discovered I'll call it the creator code, but people think the God code is within the DNA, and it's within that tetragram of the actual voice. So this is where we're going to be going with that. And so one of the things in here showed a really unique video. And that video that he showed was actually basically they were getting rid of dissolving cancer. And that was just by chanting. Okay. And so what they did is there was a woman that had bladder cancer. And this is something, if you guys have not seen it, I really suggest you guys take a look at this, because we have this power within. And that's one of the reasons why we got into that. So in here, that woman, and there's a woman that had basically bladder cancer. And what they did is that they had the monks actually chanting, and you'll hear it, wassa, 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 which means basically, so it is done. And that is what, where they're going into. So I just want you to see how powerful this is, because if you haven't known about this stuff for like 15, 20 years, I mean, the video is old, and that's because we know that it's. And so let's just take a look at that for a minute here.
We treated more than 180 types of illnesses, including bladder cancer.
看到了没有？就是在这个韩国3月法器搁这边是，咱们1块钱一买法器。
Monks were actually chanting. The bladder cancer tumors started imploding and dissolving. Was sa. Okay. Was sa. Was sa.
人就想着一下就说你算了。
小了，站着，好，没了，大家去，没了，好，没了，
it start dissolving.
She's awake. She's conscious. There are 3 practitioners behind her. And here's the tumor. Black the this is the tumor. Difference. A snapshot now. Okay, this is the real time. So this is now reference. This is actual time. It's right here.
And there you go. It starts dissolving. Okay, so is that not exciting? I think we should all be excited. There are so many things that a lot of people are not aware of. This is stuff that I've known for like 20, 30 years. And it's time that this kind of stuff needs to be brought out and needs to be shared again, because it's been sitting, I think, just in a certain select groups here. So when you start looking at this and say, hey, why have they not been doing it here? Remember, that's done in Asia, like probably 15 years ago. You don't think they haven't been doing that forever? Because I have. I've known about it being done in Russia for 30 years. And so that's why I got into some of the Russian biofeedback and the Russian voice imprinting and the skill, and now with Ryan Williams. And the reason I want to talk about this is because he's bringing out some new technology. I got to sit in a Zoom room and just go, wow, this is stuff we've been talking about for a while, but it's some of the stuff is coming out this next week. And that's why I'm saying there's some pretty, exciting things in here that, if you're not aware of, these are the things that we have to look forward to. And so in here, like I said, here, someone with an actual tumor was gone within minutes, and there is a field of medicine, I'll talk about it too. It's called hyptopsy. And so you're hearing a lot about this. Ultrasound is being used on brain tumors. It's being used in abdominal, in colon, and everything else here. But how is it that we need to get it out here? So this whole thing of hyptopsy basically is using the ultrasound to dissolve cancer as well. And so when you start learning about this, how many people knew about this, that they're actually breaking down tumors and all these sort of things, gallbladders, ultrasound, all these different things, kidney stones are being done with it, with the technology, and we're probably a little bit more further ahead. So how many of you put a 1 in there if you know, and thank you for joining us. Quiet Dawn and Dream Dust is still having fun. So let's take a look at this, because why are people missing the very, very simple stuff of what's been out here for a long, long time? And in here, let's say you've got to be aware of it to be able to speak to people. And very much like Sabrina Wallace says, I have always done in here going into what people need to learn about, because it's not just me talking, you're actually seeing these in what's going around the world. And this is something that, like I said, it's not that we're making it up, but this hyptopsy is like amazing, on here. We'll actually, and I'm going to show you some of these, because, wow, what the hell are they doing in the rest of the hospitals? What are people being subjected to this allopathic bullshit? And this is the very precursors to having things that you need to do. And I'm going to show you some really cool stuff that just is going to come out this week. So here we go. We're looking down, basically breaking down tumors, and now going into gallbladder using the ultrasound. So let's just look at some of this breaking down tumors with the sounds here. Okay, so it's around, it's out here. Okay, so again, breaking these things down, this is where we need to go. This is pretty old stuff to me, but yet this is the kind of stuff that people need to know. Why have we been going into this? So I'm gonna, there's some stuff coming out Monday, so I'm gonna, let you know some stuff ahead of time. One of the things that we have is the ability to use the voice. And in the old days, people used to send us the DNA. They used to send me hair samples. They used to send me fingernail samples, anything that could get me a physical thing. Now we've gotten to the point where we can actually use the plasma technology, or even as you call a photograph, and we can remote view, we can lock into that signature, just like thermal imaging on there. And so everyone throws like a thermal signature, right? And when you get into thermal imaging of people or animals, I mean, that's the whole internet of animals. It's the whole internet of everything. But when you start getting into thermal imaging, and this is where, again, other stuff is happening, always not for the best of our interest, but in this case, can be a positive. When I actually was exposed to some, different technologies and stuff like that, that's we've used it in the chiropractic area, looking at spinal, looking at muscles, different like things like this. These are the same cameras, slightly different, but similar to what people use to check for the leakages in insulation in homes. But we in chiropractic have been using it for your back, okay? And you can use it actually for imaging. And this is something that's safer than a mammogram. So this is something I looked at when people think they have been exposed Wi-Fi, whatever it is, it's going to show up. Let me tell you, I've had this done. It's pretty amazing. Okay. Within seconds, you can see what is going on in the organs or in the areas, people that have got poor circulation. Why is that happening? Thyroid issues. So you can take a look at this and see what's going on. And in here, you'll see a lot, like even in the chiropractic, when you're imaging, basically what you can do is a lot of people will do it in chiropractic or to image the spine. And inflamed. And so you will see actually cameras being done here with the thermal imaging. How many people have ever gone to a chiropractor or an imaging unit or checked in their cities, areas, provinces, wherever you may be, and had a look at this? And the reason I'm also bringing it to your attention, because how many people know people have been having clots? And we won't say that they're blood clots, basically, but we will say that there's other things that are happening due to those injections up the nose, in the mouth, in your brain, right? Drugs that are being taken, and also things that were injected into people. This is something, did you know you can actually see some of these different thermal imaging, and with the right people, again, not always in the hospital, but what you can start seeing is some of the people that have had actually, and there's a perfect one right here of people that are starting to use clots from what's happened in the last few years. Okay, another way to image. So the other option is to start using then some of the voice activated biomarkers. And biomarkers have been found to be what? 84% effective in blood. And that's basically what I found has happened in my experience as well. Okay, so in here, it's pretty exciting to do that. We've got Tim, welcome. He's talking about med beds today. We'll talk a little bit about that. What have we got? Lena's in here. Ariane's in here. So just hopped on about the ultrasound breaking down cancer. Yeah, I've known that for probably 30, 40 years in here. And so how do we bring it out to the mainstream? Like, how do you get it out here if we hadn't been yelling and screaming for the most part? So I want to talk a little bit about something that is being released. And I just did a video on it. It's on Odyssey because I didn't think it would actually be YouTube friendly. But one of the ones in here, I'm going to put that, and I put that up in the front here. I did an Odyssey, I did a Rumble, and I did a BitChute because I don't think YouTube is going to like too much of what I'm saying. But one of the things I started talking about was voice scans. And there is something that's really cool. And this voice scan is now coming out. The website, I'm giving it to you ahead of time. It's not launching till next week out to the general population, but it's going to be called Biofeedbackvoicescan.com. And I am really happy to be part of it because I like being ahead of the curve with a lot of this stuff, as you know. So one of the things in here, let's talk about why this is going to be. And I hope I brought you around to see what we're doing with the water, the plasma, the sound waves, and how far we can start going with this. So it's a little different than the analog Rife because people don't know how to use proper terminologies, which is always an issue. But let's take a point here. And as we jump into some of this stuff here, we are going to see some of the different issues. And let's just scoot down here on my little Odyssey there. Okay, so I have an Odyssey, a Rumble, and a BitChute, and a bunch of other things too. I know we're on YouTube, so I'm trying to keep it clean because we've already got a couple little strikes here. The biofeedback voice scan. So this is where biofeedbackvoicescans.com. I'll put that in the chat for you later. Developers of Insight Alpha apps, which have been the pioneers. Ryan Williams has always been a pioneer in this industry for at least 30 years that I've been aware of him. Okay. And in here has developed many different biofeedback technologies, including PMF, including some of the light, and including many, many mobile or portable biofeedback devices. In this case, what's going to happen, and don't get freaked out by the AI, it's an internal thing. So what we're going to do is we are going to be able to put your voice in, and there's a mini voice scan you can do for free, which it's up there. I'm all for it. So in here, this voice scan is going to go in, and you literally will upload your picture and whatever. It's not going to Grok. It's not going to anything else. It's just going directly to the website here. And then after you have basically uploaded your voice and picture, it will give you some results. It will start analyzing it. And then basically it will give you an aura and some general issues in there. If people want to go in and do further analysis, they can. But this is the beginnings of what you're looking at. And now we can start looking at minerals. We can start looking at vitamins. We can start looking at a detection ultrasound. So it's matched we can look at. And once it starts initializing the analysis in there, you can start going further and further down this rabbit hole. And so now this is going to be used worldwide to start going to Medicine Without Borders. And this is where you're going to get healing and actual medicine that you can do, because it will give you an interpretation of also the layers, the biofield, and all sorts of stuff in here. So what it will do is it will give you an energetic interpretation of whatever that biofield or aura scan is going to be. It's going to break it down. So actually this one was breaking down mine. I'm having a little bit of computer issues trying to get it to buffer, which I didn't really need. There we go. Okay, so one of the things in here is that we are seeing an energy or a clear cut of an actual almost to white. And let me tell you, you can't get too much higher than that from physical. That's one of the highest frequencies that you can get. Pushing out, it's getting into the blue and putting a crimson, not a red, but a crimson bubble around me. So, and it's fairly large. Okay. So in here, it will start giving you the interpretation of what we need to look at. So in here, and this is free. So if it's something that you guys are going to get excited about, there you can save yourself, a couple $100 and go into a therapist, a psychic, or remote viewer, or whatever you want. This will start remoting and viewing within our own internal systems and around there. There are very few things you can do with sound and technology and get a lock on what's going in there. So you will be able to get a bit of an interpretation. So this one actually starts, are we getting connected? Are we disconnected? And there are so many things coming down this week, and it's not even going to be funny. So one of the things in that field and an overview, and then you can start really drill into deeper analysis. That's where they can get a hold of myself, or, there's different things you can do here. Or right now you'll be able to trial it yourself. And this is kind of cool. So everyone gets a trial that they get to do. So, and down the road, if they want to look at something like that, they can. So it's not going to be that, which is, thank gosh, in there. So I tried it out and I was like, okay, I'm impressed. Okay. So in here, that was me going through to the possibility wave and just seeing, what I could do. What was the information? What did I get back from it? Was there validation? Where was the stress You know, was it in what acupuncture meridian? Do I need grounding? Were there some different ideas or what I could go into that might help further integrate some of the different, you know, things that I could into support my health. Also gave some different graphs, and these are really basic, right? Compared to some of the stuff that we actually can vibrate it probably better than a chiropractor, a massage therapist, a reflexologist, or a physiotherapist can, right? So once you get these kind of snapshots, it allows you then to map remedies, which gets even better. So once you go into there, you can start seeing these really cool reports, right? You can see what the energy level is, just like a battery. Is there toxicities in the system, which is always great to know as we're getting like slammed by everything. And these are different things you might want to take a look at. So like I said, this is being launched, and it's being launched actually on Monday. So I was like really excited to see this. And again, Ryan Williams is the developer of this, and this is where we need to take a look at that. So if it's something that you want to, or something you have questions, that's one of the things that, you know, we certainly can look at, because there are so many things that we can be looking at to improve the systems and see where we're going with this kind of stuff. I have yet to find anything, and I have had hundreds and thousands of scans, and I mean literally thousands of scans I've not only done, but participated in over the last 30 years. And this is probably one of the most unique things that we can see, because we're now making what's called neuro remedy medicine. How many people, you've heard about the regen beds, but did you know we can start scanning the body and actually making neuro remedies? We can make them electrical ceuticals, which to me are much more in-depth and vibratory than even going into something like a homeopathic. I would rather have something along that line and getting a frequency imprinted restructuring, whether it's water. And to me, water is still the best substance for putting any kind of a frequency to hold it. Not a homeopathic, but either the water or the essential oil. And so a lot of times what you're doing, you can actually look at someone's aura, and then what we do is we put these different frequencies in, and you're going to see a change in it. So for example, I can frequency imprint a remedy, and I create a lot of this too. So Lena's got a question here. You created this. The actual software was developed by Ryan Williams at Insight Health Apps. I have also been able to co-create or co-write. So there's a part there where the therapist or your practitioner can go in and actually make those remedies. So yes, in a way, I have created some of it. I'm a co-creator with this. He developed, you know, all the major software, but we can add to the software as a therapist. And so in here, let's say this was you on the left, right? Looking a little washed out, grayed out, been hanging out with people, getting shed on, getting whatever kind of geoengineering, gosh knows what's going on. Once we start then putting the frequencies in, I can give you the frequency of frankincense. I can give you the frequency of wormwood. I can give you the frequency of ashwagandha. I could get you the frequency of Bach flowers. I could give you the frequency of spring water. I could give you the frequency of baking soda and start alkalizing you and restructuring you. Are you aware of this? Because it's been around for decades and decades. I've been doing this. So in here, let's say that's you. Then what we do is we run these frequencies, no different than you taking, you know, a remedy, however you want to take it, orally or on the skin, or you inhale it, or you want to nebulize it or diffuse it or put it in an enema, or my gosh, you could put the frequencies into your bath. So when you see what people like Tony Pantalesco developing these triangles and buckets and spike type of electrical magnetics, I can put that in the bathtub. So let's say you put in your borax and your Epsom salt and your baking soda and whatever else you want in there, and your lavender, right? And you put this into your bathtub and put their electrical things and ozone generators and whatever else. You can now restructure that water and put a couple drops in, and it will basically can create the whole water like a homeopathic. So let's take a look at this for just a sec here. So These are some of the things in
Be
here.
a detective and find the root cause.
So this is where we're at, guys.
Entangled insights. Drill deeper into the possible cause of an imbalance by selecting the item to investigate.
These are,
Contains hundreds
this
of
in the case is
frequencies that
using
allow you
Young
to
Living.
connect your selected item to other items that
So
you
this
can
is
use
using
for
Young Living
reference.
essential oil or doTERRA or whatever else you
Be
want.
quick and precise. Your perfect balance is one frequency away. Quick balance. Option.
So then we're going to come into making what's called neuro remedies.
Items to be balanced for
And so what we're going to do is we're going to start balancing these things by putting them in. And so there, the idea is that you
your
listen
energy
to them.
deserves it. Frequency, shape, and form.
This is where we've come
And
into. This
change
is the
your frequency,
ultrasound part
shape,
we're
and
talking
form
about.
for a more effective
So
and
depending
pleasant
if we want to do sine waves or you want to do square waves or sawtooth waves,
listen with your best
if you've got a
headphones in
tumor
quiet
or
and
something, we're going to
comfortable
start
position.
using a square wave.
Harmonize your energy for at least 15 minutes a day.
I want you to think
You
that
can
there
add
is
as
a
much
wave,
time
a
as you
current
like. Trust your
waving
intuition
through
if you feel like
the
having
body.
more. The best kept secret.
Okay, so you do not have to use anything electrical, magnetic. You can simply do it. Think of it like having hundreds of tuning forks in each ear. So this is actually some of the stuff that people have not been aware of. And this is where we're at for the last 30, 40 years. Okay, so this is the supply and stuff in here. This is how doing.
And neuro
So this is where you said, am I making anything? Yes, I am. I'm making all these libraries now.
Functions.
Sexual abuse, ritual abuse, all sorts of stuff. So you can actually now create libraries by taking that substance, putting it on a plate, and I get the actual frequency or the imprint directly. This is like your Regen Med kind of technology. So there's the neuro remedies that we're now making. And so basically we're putting them in onto a tray, and we can think of it like muscle testing. Does this work for you physically? Maybe it's great for you mentally, but it's not so great for something. So this is where you can adjust things, because not every form is for whatever you need. If I took frankincense tree or a sap, or as you think smudge, or if we're going to start doing like incense, or do I have to go to actual oil of it? Every different form of something will work differently in each part. These are the quanta capsules we are now going into. This is where people literally, you can come, I can do the fractals for you, and you can listen to it for over a week. So these are now the other things. And again, these are not advised. I wouldn't use it on anyone pregnant, obviously, or someone that's been heavily, we'll say, graphinated in their nose, brain, or wherever it is. These are not for everyone. But for a lot of people, they can be very helpful, or you put it around a glass of water instead of you, because then you can potentize your water. So this is the kind of stuff where I'm using, and this is how people go, how the hell do you get this? Like, how is this going to work? You're listening like a speaker to the sound vibration, just like energy. This is like beyond Reiki on steroids. This is cosmic, and you're bringing the actual frequency, the vibration. This isn't like your med bed technology. So this is where we're getting in, and I can use the pill, the form. That's how I do things. Let's say like doing tobacco. I would never think to use a pharmacological agent for someone. So this is where this is going. And I think this is actually the most exciting thing. So basically that's what I'm doing. I'm putting the substances on, and then we are going from there. And then now that could be used to basically muscle test, okay, on you. So the voice will be bank, and every therapist is different. Every device will be different. We all have like sort of one set of data things, and then we can keep adding to it depending what our specialty is. So if I want to do emotional coaching or mental coaching or life coaching or past life or this life or childhood issues or whatever is stored in that biofield. And that's where some of the stuff really gets exciting. So if this is the first time you're hearing about this, really, this is so cool. So yeah, that's part of the stuff that I've been creating and co-creating for a couple decades. Now it's going to come to the forefront. Now this is for you guys to take this information and bring it forward. So in here, I'm going to put in what that particular website is. And it's called www, as I said, voice biofeedback voicescan.com. Okay, and if you have any questions, you can get a hold of me because I'm doing way more beyond that. Okay, so Lena, you got a question. Very cool. I've been exploring tuning forks. However, this is going to be on a whole nother level. And that's what I said. This is way before, you know, in here. You think this is old technology. It's not. So, I mean, here's my tuning forks. Okay, very limited. Okay. And most people don't realize when you're playing one fork and then a different fork, you are doing different frequencies. You will not get a binaural beat or a coherent frequency until you had two of the same forks as well. So they would have to be basically 432 to do that. Okay. And let me tell you, there is not one tapeworm on the earth that is going to respond. They have a place. They certainly do. But they are limited. And when you learn about even the weighted forks here, okay, which that goes on, right? There's a 128. You can see it vibrating. And you can hear it vibrating, maybe. Okay, is it slowing down? But these are the ones that are meant to go on the body. It's basically, these are great for playing in the air, like smudging, like sound smudging, but okay, you can't really see it. This, the lower it goes, the weights drive it down. Okay, and there are lots. I've got complete sets of these. And again, they have a time and a place. But how many people know about Rife books? Okay, how many people, and I'm just going to show you one of these. How many people, I actually have been like talking, it was Marcelo's birthday actually this week. So happy belated celebration, arrival on this planet on someone's Gregorian calendar. Not mine, but whatever. These are guides. Every disease in the world is basically got a frequency or a code. Okay, so if you want to go into the spine, or you want to go into an organ, or you want to use stuff like this, you got to know the codes. And you don't think we don't know the codes, because they do. They have these in all the upper echelons, hospitals and stuff like that. So this is called rifing, and that's why I'm going to go into some of this. Every different spine, did you know all the elements have got a sound to them? Did you know this entire periodic table has got a sound to them? And that's what I'm doing in the biofeedback. So when I scan you, I can scan for the entire elements in and around your body. And then if you're low on boron or you're low on calcium or whatever it is, I can find the vibration, the herb, the oil, or the substance to do this. Okay. And again, this applies to emotional, to mental, to every different organ system there is. Okay. There is something that's called the song of the spine. How many people know about the song of the spine here? Okay. There is the vibration. Okay. You've got a mineral and a vitamin and everything else in here. Okay. So your ammonium chloride, or this mineral goes here and this mineral goes here. Okay. That's also the limited spectrum. And so what we're looking for is what you're too high or too low in. Okay. And I can do that. That's what this device is about with biofeedback. We're sending a sound wave through you. And that's why I can do this kind of therapy and scanning on Zoom or FaceTime or Telegram or Google Hangouts. Okay. So I can do these scans virtually. And we've been scanning for a long time like this. So in here, like I said, if you need to get the frequency of a tapeworm, it's not going to be at 528 or 432 or whatever. And every vibration, okay, there is something called the song of the spine. Okay, the solfeggio's on there. Do you think there's a tuning fork for all of these? But like I said, let me just pick something here. I'm just going to grab the book, if I may, here. Okay, let's take a look here. We've got a Spiridicanum personium. Did you ever hear that? I did, because I took biology and nursing. or I've got a streptophyllum, or I've got a trichoderma, and let's just see what the Spirictium porcinium is. It's 584, 598, 687, 755, and 715 hertz. Okay? If you got that bacteria, guess what? You ain't going to have a tuning fork for that. So this is where the whole idea of Rife comes in. Okay? Let's say you have lupus. Let's say you have diabetes. There are the codes to vibrate into that system for you. Okay? So there isn't any too many diseases and stuff like that we don't have a code. Someone's been misdiagnosed with the C word, right? Or let's say here you've got beriberi, or you're low in vitamin C, or low in whatever it might be, if vitamin C deficiency. You want to see all the codes for the vitamin C deficiencies? Right there. Okay? So we've gotten everything. I could give you the vitamin C of orange, of camu, of like say rose hips, of sea buckthorn, many ways to give you different varieties of assimilable, absorbable vitamins. Okay, so this is it. So that's very interesting. So Lena, you've never heard of Rife. So we're going to take you on a little trip here for me. How many of you are actually on my Facebook? Because that's probably about the only way I advertise today. Okay, I usually try and do this once a week. It's been a few weeks since we've been doing this, but okay. One of the things in here, and by the way, I'll say if anyone actually is, also on my Facebook this week, what I just put down today as well was actually what we're talking about is blood types. So if any of you guys are AB positive, that happens to be my clan, my tribe, and my soul, and my nations or blood type, which is also known as the Bear Clan. So it's not O Canada, it's Heya Heya Ho, Yahweh Heyu Manitou Makwa. But that's the national anthem for that, right? Okay, so much to learn, so little time. Okay, so one of the things in here, and that's one of the things I wanted to bring to people's attention. Okay, this is why it's so critical to start getting this information out. And I'm going to be doing some really wild stuff. We're going to be talking about who are you and what's the difference of a sovereign. Do you know a sovereign is to be under the reign of a clan mother, the queen, not the president of the corporation of like whatever country. That's not what it is about. And so one of the things in here, we're going to start talking about definitions, and we need to get some of this stuff back into place. So one of the things I'm going to take you to, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to be putting you on Facebook here. And in here, that's where you're going to learn. I've stored a lot of information. So Quiet Dawn said, I found you on a Telegram link. Oh, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty awesome. Oh, and Dario's here too. Great. Great to see you. Any questions, throw them in the chat, because I'm always open to, teaching people with, new things. If you haven't heard of this, this is a great place to learn some of this, I think, very vital information that people have been missing. So I'm going to take you on a little trip, because you said that you have never heard of this, Lena. Okay, so let's take a look at this. I'm going to give you a brief information rundown here on basically what Rife is. I'm talking about pull shifts coming in. I'm talking about, this is under my albums, by the way. There's no cats here and dogs, unless I probably did a biofeedback on one. I've talked about the dangers of M-Blue, of the ivermectins, and a whole bunch of stuff is just set up with Parasite Purger. Tony Pantalleresco, Sabrina Wallace has talked about it, and of course, Zach from Power the Pulse. Bless you guys all. And what's happened here is Parasite Purger just put a whole new thing on about the Z, O, and light dangers. Okay, these are fad things, and I'm going to start putting some stuff in, especially if you're interested in the sovereignty part, about getting off the system, getting off the grid, and resetting stuff back in your local communities. Look at some of the stuff I'm going to be putting here under the Great Matriarchs. Let's just go back into here. So we've got remote sound biofeedback. I've got tuning forks in here. I've got essential oils. I've got previous shows I've done. I only put a few up because there's been hundreds and thousands over the years. But has there's been healing? Where are we going with this type? and see what comes up. I love my computer, everything. We got hit in here with several just different power outages, and let me tell you, it fried my poor computer. So one of the things in here, people always go, what is a normal, healthy biofeedback? Okay, mine's not always like this. Everyone's got great days and not so great. That's what you should be seeing. We should all look like pink flamingos. That's your indigo rose. That's the fuchsia color, the mauve color. That's a blend of very high, and you can see it's extrapolating through the entire biofield. That's me when I'm on my game. Okay, and you have to use this kind of technology. So if you want to use them, like I said, you can put them on your phone, your iPad, whatever you want. And literally this can go on and you can scan and see what it looks like. You want to scan into your spine, you want to scan into an organ, energy fun than muscle testing. And it's against existing data banks. And so we know what the sound or the resonancy is of a healthy liver, of a healthy pancreas. What you're doing is it's your day of atonement. You're actually tuning yourself up into this. Okay. And as I showed you a little bit about what was going on about exploding cancer, these are things that we talked about in here. And you can see just kind of, it looks like blood cells, but this is actually leukemia cells that were used by the biofeedback that we did 20, 30 years ago. And the boom basically is what we call it. Basically converted into the computer lines. So that's basically how we're doing it. It's a form of ultrasound computer, and it's computer assisted, which gives us the information. So in here, for example, what it's talking about, you see the treble clef here, is carbon. As I talked about that periodic table, it responds to the yellow spectrum. It responds into the 300 and some hertz. It goes to the key of E. Okay, so there's many ways to break this down. This in here where you see all these kind of funny little lines, that's your A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through. So when we pull out A, E, I, O, U, we're seeing where you fall in the spectrum. Is it a healthy spectrum or is it an oppressed or depressed spectrum? Again, a lot of this stuff you cannot always see. So when we're medic, sometimes most people can feel it. I bet you 95 times out of 100 people that I will do on Zoom, on Facebook, the minute I start putting the sounds through, they feel it on the other end, and they don't even usually have headphones. That's just generally starting in 5 minutes, whatever that disease may be. So whether it's for people, pets, livestock, whatever, I think I've done it all just about. The imprinting that I'm doing in water and crystals, and what I want to do is heal the water. How many of you want to heal the water and the planets and the children? That's what I'm doing. I'm actually taking the water, restructuring the water, putting the right codes in, clearing out or detoxing or doing basically like a parasite cleanse of the water, parasite cleanse or detox of whatever it is, restructuring it back in the original structure. And then I can put it back into the lake, into the creek, and all sorts of places. I'm very innovative, as you can see. Sometimes I will put stuff on people's hands or on their feet and run basically currents right through the entire acupuncture points. So I can put them on head, fan, all the above. And that's what basically Rife or reflexology is. Okay, so Royal Raymond Rife was discovering this many, many years ago. They've done this for hundreds. It's not like he just discovered it 120 years ago, years before they made the pyramids. But that is one of the things in here too. And the quiet dawn is in. Look at this. I found you on Telegram too. Cool. Okay, so synergy is amazing. Okay, and those are kind of the things. I was just chatting with Sabrina Wallace this week, right? Whenever we both have time and coordinated after, hopefully I'm done moving or something in the next few weeks, is we will get that essential oil, because we've promised you basically that we're going to get some essential oils and start talking about the vibration of the essential oils. I want all of you to start looking at essential oils. Those people, you don't have to have expensive brands, but you can certainly get organic therapeutic ones. Definitely. Suppliers is keyaromaShop.ca, nevessence.com up here. Down the States, you've got New Directions and a whole bunch of other suppliers. These are things that you should be using, because it's going to be about one of the few things that go in and around. And this is my own version, by the way. I got it from them. I just like it, but I've made and formulated my own. So every couple hours, I am usually putting this on. You know, I can put it into the water. I can put it onto my skin. You can put it onto, how many people know that you can make aromatherapy pills? Did you know that? You could do actually essential oil, make your own internal pills. Those are one ways to do it. Enemas, colonics, or if I do this, then if you work and smudge with the essential oils and then you do your tuning forks, they're going to work way better. Okay. There are ways to do it and ways to improve it. One of the things I actually just got in today, a couple hours ago, I want to thank that. How many people have seen these kind of diffusers? These are totally different, you guys. Okay. This is not putting it into water. You actually put your essential oils into this bottle. It slides in and it is a diffuser, not a nebulizer with water. Okay. So this is a waterless diffuser. And I actually found one. I can't believe it was under $40, $50. And then basically just USB it. So this is actually going to do, this can do 1,000 square feet in about half an hour. Okay. This is the kind of stuff I want, not nebulizers, super diluted stuff. Like people put in 5-6 drops into what, you know, they're putting it into some water. No, I'm going to use the straight essential oil because it's going to work better. One of the things as well, too, I want to give a shout out because I'm going to be doing some stuff in here. How many people of you have heard about Maureen Walton O'Brien? Okay, this is an incredible woman. I just got to reconnect with her. These are her books, and these are some of the workbooks that go with it. And it's all about parthenogenetics and the recovery of the women and the matriarchs. And these are things that she was actually in Ontario in the Anishinaabe stuff. This wonderful Irish little woman, clan woman, has been tasked by a lot of the First Nations out there. And we're going to start doing this kind of room recovery. So everything I'm showing you here, the tuning forks, the biofeedback, the sound, the voice is going to be used for womb recovery and for women. And this is an incredible thing. If you're in your area, I think she's doing some retreats from what I saw. And so the Mohawks and those different Anishinaabe have actually asked her to put those books together and to put their creation stories together for the women. So I think it's always very, very cool. Okay, so has anyone got any questions? This is going to be my question answer thing. And thanks for joining us. Oh, look who's in here. Oh, cool. Miss Dempsey's in here. Okay, so one of the things in here I want to talk a little bit about too is how do we stay healthy? I'm in the process of moving. If you haven't heard, I also got some really interesting text today. How many people are having anxiety over what's going on in the world? You know, it doesn't matter if it's the Gulf of this and the Strait of that and who's doing what and this is flying there and this is blowing up. A lot of this stuff, like I said, has been pre-designed. I want you to get away from basically what that is because these are to do with things above and below. And how many people know that I and then ran or was actually Aryans, okay? Original bloodlines, okay, that got seeded down there a long time ago. Pre-flood cities, there was stuff underground before they had that. And then in there was something called stargates, okay? That area is known as Stargate number 10, is like SG10, okay? So the stargates around the world are all over the place. And this is also what people call gates. They will call ley lines. And of course, everyone's heard of Stargate, you know, in here. But these stargates are connected basically to the ley lines and energetic portals. And because of different electrical magnetics, it actually is changing the entire vibration for people. Okay, so that's why people go to the pyramids. That's why they go inside here. Or if you've ever, you know, gone into the forest. Okay, we're going to go through a little bit of definitions, why I'm a savage, because it means, you know, Invictus and stuff like that, and Silvictus, which means those that live in the trees in the forest. They are still connected. They work with natural law and nature. Okay, so one of the things in here, as we take a look as to what's been happening, let's take a look at those ley lines. Know where you are. Look at what the electrical magnetics is going to happen, and then we're going to look at what's going to happen in the pole shift. So these are called ley lines, global ley lines. ancient line, the Marian line, the serpent line. Everyone's got a line or two. Anyway, on here, and that's what's happening here. So I want you to see this right in the middle here that looks like it's got all that sacred geometry and crosses in here. It says R-Cub cluster, that number 10, that's what's going on in those areas. So again, these are ley lines and portals that come up. And this is what some of this stuff is about, as they take down some of the old stuff. And this is to do with, think of in quantum entanglement, that's why an actual detonation can happen and something happens on the other end of it. So it's like a string. It's like string theory. Basically, you hit that cord and it vibrates all the way across. That's why when we had stuff go off in the ocean, that 8.0 at just outside Kamachacha, is that basically that's what happened. As you can see, this little ley line, that's what's happening just outside of Calgary and in basically the Cree and Sassoon nations there, right? Blackfoot nations. So in here, and again, I don't think in terms of country, but I want you to think about where, like their Golden Dome, they've got these things all over. And if you can think of the satellites on top of it, they got us just about like, laced in. So we need to actually clear some of these things and see where these chakra or convergent points are on the planet. Okay. They exist. And this is part of what's going on right now. And there's, like I said, we can just have a great time for where you are and where those portals are. So these are being used for gates. And this is what you call wormhole and black technology. Black hole in the world. There's a black hole in the sun today. So this is actually what some of this is. Okay. So again, all you can do is be prepared. Things are changing over, right? And so that's why we want to keep the vibration up. So one of the things as well, I went and got some sprouting. You should have anything in here, food, water, always. And you should always have a minimum of at least 3 to 6 Rubbermaid containers that are safely in that Rubbermaid or that hard plastic or whatever you want to say that will be protected from the elements. So those are some of the things in here. And you should have food, water. And one of the things I went and got today, I've got 2 of them. There's one here. This is all the fruits in the world. You just take all this and all these different organic fruits and vitamins and essential oils are in here. There's another one I have where it's got all-in-one meal replacements because if something happened, I don't care. The other thing too is I've got sprouts. So within 2, 3, 4 days, you can have sprouts and fresh salad. You can have be growing that. So always keep sprouts and stuff like that because anything that you can add water to that's dehydrated, boom. Those are things in there. So Lena's been saying, I've been craving nature and being in the woods and I can feel the shift happening. All of us can. One of the things I'm going to tell you in this area is that a lot of people, and whether you realize or not, I've had 2 friends in the last little while, and basically they've called me and said, we've been woken up at one at 10 o'clock in the morning. The other one was woken up at 3 in the morning and their houses were shaking. Okay. So one of the things is that it's happening in my area. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to get people in and start learning some of this terminology because it's really important that you get the basics. And one of the basics, and part of it is energy and law. I was just, a girlfriend of mine got pulled over, didn't have plates and stuff like that. And they went to ding her $600. And I said, well, why didn't you tell them you were a savage sovereign? Right? I've got signatory authority, but this is something. Have you seen Dr. Dina Churchill's? I showed you the 3, 4 I've done with Clan Mother Miko, Chief Miko, and Eagle Eye Man, but I just did another one. There it comes again, the Sovereign Savages, Clan Mothers, and Eagle Eye Man is otherwise known as Tim Phillips on Facebook if you want to get a hold of him. Now in here, what we started doing, and there's Dr. Churchill. She's also a quantum biofeedback chiropractor. She's been using the biofeedback to resonance for a long time. And so we had a nice discussion. And one of the things we started talking about was with Eagle Eye Man.
Quite extensively what it is, how to express it, and how to make it stick. So basically, as Karen said, I would just like to get this knowledge out. It's just for all the people. It doesn't matter who you are, whoever you are, you come from a tribe, a legitimate tribe that signed a treaty in the past. And for all of the North American Indians, North and South America as well, it's all still Indian land, basically. America, United States, Canada, neither the United States nor Canada has it. It's still Indian territory. It's just the Indians are classified as prisoners of war right now on concentration camps, reserves, instead of how they were originally.
Now, what I am going to make a note of is that we go in later and talk about this, is that our white tribal clans and tribes. This is not a color. If you ever looked at the medicine wheel, it talks about the white tribes, the Asian tribes, the blacks, the Israeli tribes. It talks about all the tribes. This is not a Aboriginal native thing. This is all the original bloodlines. Okay. And one of the things I brought up, and we started talking about the word sauvage. Sauvage means those that live in natural law with this. And it's really, really important that you know these terms. Sauvage is not a negative term. It means we have not been colonized. They have no authority on us. It's in the movie Avatar. They said clearly what it is. It's in the movie also Jupiter Ascending. It's in many movies if you listen to what it is. And I want you to know all of us, almost everyone, comes from that clan or that tribe. This is something that people need to know. And this religar or religion is what it is to bring people together, what binds you, what your law is. In here, we went through the actual law definitions. You think they're going to teach this to an attorney? They don't. This is left for the elites. It's left for, you got to be way above a sergeant, like a general, to know this kind of stuff. It's not what they teach down at the lower ends, let me tell you. Sauvage, and again, means those that live with the tree. It means you're not a person. And look at the titles. Corpus Juris Secundum, Title 42. It's like, hi, Marine thing, Title 10. Okay? Not in a person and not inhabitant. So that means there's some other classes of people, as he said. Everyone that is a native on a ban and reserve is not an actual sovereign. They are classified as prisoner of war, hence powwows. And that basically the sauvages or sovereigns with signatory authority have got, and it's not a treaty, it's a treaty that hold all in trust rights of a sovereign. And again, sovereign means to be under the jurisdiction of the matriarch / queen / clan mother, right? And so those terms were given because they tried to use their right of discovery to get rid of everyone and take it over. So I want you to know there are very specific terms. This has about what you're doing. And that's when we said with, we went back to listening to that tumor of how they said, wasa, wasa, it is done. Thank you. Wasa, wasa. You never heard them use amen, did you? Sending it back to the Amen Ra. So again, these words in here, the sauvage is very, very important. People tell me, where is this? Where is it written? Why isn't it Canadian code? Why is it not there? It is here in stone, literally in stone, imprinted. This is the chematic or camel's eye or chematic. This is for all the white, and I hate that word in a sense, but they call the white or whatever, the tribes basically from, as you call, Tartarian all the way down to the pyramids. This falls under the Cleopatra tribes. There's your treaty right there. And that's part of, I put up today, anyone that's AB positive, that's what you're part of. So again, know who you are is very, very important. And these terms are basically what we're doing. I am putting this together because people need to have this knowledge. It's been basically displaced, and people need to get this knowledge back. So that's why I'm going to suggest you start looking at these and start passing them around, because this is stuff that they've been hiding for a long time. And I'm not going to tolerate this stuff being hidden from you. You need to know what the children need to know. This is what the wisdom and the tribal and the treaty and the knowledge keepers had. We are the original peacekeepers. We're the original treaty keepers because we have this knowledge. They have kicked in here. Of course, freezing up here, so we'll just wait till it buffers out again. So again, take a look at this, on here. Very, very important. These terms are in here. There we go. I just wanted to come to that one. In here, what it's showing is that you don't think the judges know about it? They do. Judge Urban, in the case in the United States versus Consolidated Wounded Knee, said the tribal government is made up of signatory, basically, nations, and you have to make up a tribe, and that tribe, as it said there, is the tribal government led by the angels, the daughters of the Great Spirit, the clan mother called the Cassis Omissis, and that's from the United States court judges. Okay? And this goes back to before George Washington that tried to take people away back in the state of New York. Okay? They tried to replace the power of the clan mothers with their Masonic governments and republics. So this is where you have to have original customs, usage, and laws, and that all children are born signatory. Okay, and then they try to corrupt people with their birth certificates and their this and their that, and do this and get your driver's license and get all this kind of crap. So I want you to see there, because what happened is that those books that were in here were rewritten, retranslated in the Bible in the 1500s from the original one from 451 OD, because those little Bedini scholars and scribes and under the papacy bull crap stuff went and redid it. And this is from Numbers 21:14. There's also a whole set of books called the Book of the War of the Lords that they happen to hide in the Vatican. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we know. The other one of those, I'm just going to show you quickly, is that those crown and trusts and everything else belong to the original tribes, including all your Cleopatra tribes, your Noah's Ark tribes, all those different ones. Anglos, Saxons, Mercia, Northumbria, what you call your European little, pre-country stuff. On here, the definitions are given, and this is something that people need to learn. This is how they set up with Her Majesty, the Majestic. It's like the head of the Majestic 12, but whatever. Set up those crowns. The crowns were basically set up with a 60-40 split at the top here, and explains, and this is over all of the continent. This has got nothing just to do with Canada being only 12 miles outside the navigable waters. This is information that you need to know. And then this is how we're going to start doing the restoration and getting those things back. And this would be the original thing before Nasera, by the way, and Gesera. So these are things that we want to get in here. And so that's why we need to get back into nature. We need to get back into natural law, natural customs, and natural languages. I actually showed on there what the tribal maps are. And everyone was like, what? And so when you actually look at some of the tribal maps, tell me where you live right now. Put in the chat box where you think you live. Are you in a city, a town, a province, what nation you're from? Just put in the chat room because I'm kind of curious. So where do you live? Where are you coming from today? Right? How is that done here? And take a look at that. So tell me where you're from today. I'm kind of curious. Okay, in here, because I'm going to show you a different version of what that is. Okay, because maps were actually hololinguistic. Okay, so where you could speak or your language could be, again, shared. Okay, St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, different areas, Quebec near Montreal. Bienvenue, by the way. Okay, so in here, most people have thought that they're coming in from, again, an artificial construct. I'll tell you, when my Baba came here, Actually, my great Baba came here. But before that, even her, so from Ildonka or Dorothy Lusick, came in here, or Zachuk, married to Lusick, came in. Then my Baba, Anna Lusick, right? They didn't have Saskatchewan. What Canada? What Saskatchewan? Didn't exist. Okay? They came here, and again, where your language could be spoken. So a lot of that stuff, too, you don't realize that may be Tartarian, what you think Russian, are dialects of actually, if you listen to Dene and Cree up here, do you know they're not that different? Hey, Yeho is Yahweh. Hey, Yahweh, same thing, potato. So what happens in here is we start looking at some of this. Let's just see what those maps were. So again, we're working on an artificial construct. If they think they can get you into there, well, there you go. So here is Aaron Capella, which I just love. He's just amazing. Did you know these are actually the tribal nations maps? This is where the whole linguistics are. So wherever you are on this continent, guys, that is the territory that you are in. That is the language of a lot of the people here. And if you know scripturally, then you're going to realize that those scriptures were based in this area and not across in the Middle East. Okay? This is where most of it has been shown. It's been shown it in many different scriptures. Again, history is not what we've been told. And so these are the areas of where you are. And if I can say potato, hey ho, Yahweh, hey yo, manatumakwa, yayubya debut, whatever it might be, we want to preserve our original customs, uses, and language, not be assimilated in to the peoples here. You are supposed to preserve your mother's language, your grandmother's language, your great-great-mother's languages. That is the language that you are responsible for. And it's great to have that because we all have peace and peace agreements and peace treaties in here. We weren't at war. We had stuff in here. So there's another way to look at that. Okay. How many know I'm in here? This is not British Columbia. This is Bear Clan territory, originally pre-flood. It also is with some of the tribes of what's called the Sinaiaks, Kootenay, Sinix, Okanagan, Shuswap, Shwepmak, right? Do you know the people in your area? It's like, who are the people in your neighborhood? Anyway, those are some of the people that, again, you should get to know. And again, do remember 99% of the people on the bands in the reserves are captured prisoners of war, and most of them do not know any different because they have been assimilated like most people. Who hasn't been scooped up? I went to a public and to a Catholic school, a private school. I went to both. Okay. So I've had slightly different viewpoints as well, all to learn that it's absolutely BS. Okay. So we have to be open and get back and do the restoration. That's some of the things I'm looking at doing. The voice is so important. One of those things as we're doing the hidden messages in your voice is how are you doing your prayers? How are you doing your affirmations? How are you doing your blessings? Some people don't like lower the blessings and everything else, but again, very, very important. I usually suggest people, if instead of saying I love you, put your water around and go to Yayubya Taba. Yayubya Taba. Yayu, right? Yahweh, whatever. Different version of saying it, but those are different things that you will get, like Dr. Moto. And so that's why I like using some of this, because it's going to give you a whole different perspective. It's going to give you something different than bastardized English. Those people that are kind of into this Russell J. Gold stuff, private member stuff, I was actually kind of shocked because people were sending me things going, did you see what Russell J. Good did? He's talking about this, he didn't give credit to Meredith Quinn. He didn't give it credit to Lester House. He didn't give it credit to any of us that have been talking about this for like decades. Okay. I have entire books in here that would blow your mind. I have books that, talk about stuff in the pole shift way before in here that were given by a lot of the peoples here. These are books and oral traditions that came down from all the different tribes, by the way, before there was a Bible. Okay. Those are the Meredith Quinn teachings. These are the things in here to do with the pole shift. These are the different things you will see on what's coming up, because this is not the first time we've did it, and it won't be the last. Okay, these are from the different epochs, from the different resets, from the different pulse shifts. And as Dr. Richard Miller said, he studied everything. He gave his stuff to Reagan, to all the other presidents, because he's one of the leading world experts that I talked to. He says, do you know we haven't got a surviving record of anything? But in a way, what do we have, right? We've got oral traditions, right? We've got it passed down from some of the generations, because some of these different clans and tribes and nations actually, guess what? They kept some of their stuff in stone, depending where it was. These are all the original law books. Okay. So this is something that's very, very important, right? And it says we start looking at some of these things, it can make a big, big difference. So I'm just going to kind of lead off here. And I want to thank people. I'm so grateful to the people here and to the friends that I've made and stuff on Facebook, because through that I was able to communicate. I literally had a place, didn't have a place, had a place, didn't have a place. I've gone through this like 6 times in the last couple months. And I want to be so grateful to, Kathy and to different people and Rick and stuff like that, because like, honest to gosh, now I have a place to live again. It's like, holy crap. So one of the things in here, I just want, people to know that, again, there are things coming down, and for the, best of a lot of stuff that we have in here. Okay. Which is why I'm starting to look at doing the sound and the voice technology, because nothing is more important. No one's voice is more important, not listening to anyone else but your own. When you feed your voice back on a thing, you can actually like muscle test against anything in the world. Pendulums can screw up, machinery can screw up, but your voice is pretty consistent. And so those are some of the things that I think people really need to take a look at, because there are so many things that you are the creator and co-creator of your reality. And this is the time that we need to go back into that. And again, the water, the voice, the food, and part of that is also reading a label. Have you ever gone there and say, well, what's on this, and read it out to yourself and going, do I know what that is? If you can't eat it or pronounce it or don't know what it is, you shouldn't have it. I've always taught that. Do you know what a goji berry is? That's called lycium or wolfberry. Yeah, I do actually. I know all 3 versions of it. Acai is in here, pomegranate, Indian gooseberry, prunes, blueberries, cranberries, strawberries, cherries, guava, blackcurrant, sea buckthorn. It's all in mine. I can read it. I know what it is. Some of these things, like I said, are so important for people to take a look at that, because how are we going to basically move forward, right? There's a major, as you're hearing about, there's probably going to be a massive lockdown again. Did you know that? Are you guys prepared for that? Have you heard about that? Okay. Did you know that there are areas in their countries that based on what this, again, they're controlling stuff. There's actually countries where they have no power. Did you know I'm a former neonatal nurse. Did you know how many hundreds of patients and thousands of patients and children and people that were on ventilators that have passed away in the last few weeks because these areas did not have power generation to put these up? We need to look at alternative forms. Okay. Wind, solar. And I mean, there's a lot of things there's stuff magnetics. We have stuff from the ether, like what we were doing with different things as well. So in here, like I said, there are so many different opportunities that people can use for the benevolence of everyone. And so I think this is actually one of the most important things. So I'm going to do someone in here because they just called me up and they went to the dentist, and I had other people coming in. They were going to go in and they're not feeling well. So I'm doing a session here. So I can do something to someone else. I can multitask. So Lena's got a question. What's the reason for the next lockdown? Why? Power and control, reset, right? Biodigital convergence. Okay, look what's happening. If you're on my Facebook, get on there, because I'm putting the links. And half the time I can't give it to you because they won't allow it because of the Canadian restrictions that I have up here. So I'll cut and paste stuff off, wherever I get. But why? Because it's going to be basically for different things that are going on. And if you've taken something special within the swabs or the injections, you're really in for a bit of a shock coming up in the next few months. Okay. So as I said, it has to do with stargates, things that are going below. There are actually things called jinn, like genies, the bad genies, jinn, demonics, interdimensionals, non-corporals, all sorts of stuff, body hopping, body snatchers, all sorts of stuff. What you call possessions. A parasite is a possession. Candida infection is a alien invasion. You know, all those things could be in there. So again, it's how you look at things, right? So when you start looking at people, I have a whole different viewpoint. So I'm doing someone right now because they just sent me an email that they're basically passed out and went to the dentist. I told them not to go till they had basically a washer, but they didn't obviously listen to me, because you can actually put injections and dental anesthetic into a washer and actually pull as much can as you got. Well, at least they're doing not too bad, because I worked on them like 3-4 times this week. But you can see there's a gray ring. And I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a gray ring, brown ring that just happened because of what happened. That's the shedding, or pulled the energy off that individual from there. And then I can see what happened here. So anyway, those are things that, again, people need to take a look at. So when you go in there, you can use the frequency. I can use the frequency of an essential oil like Juva Cleanse and start getting out mercury and things like that. Remember, the graphene and stuff like that is one of 50 some metamaterials. It doesn't matter that you just get a little venom out or a little graphene out or a little bit of mercury or thimerosal. It's the nanotechnology that Sabrina Wallace talks about that's in this patented cyber technology. And I have told people, if you think a herb or an oil, if I had a computer virus and I throw a herb and an oil on it, it is not going to get rid of the computer cyber technology that is interfaced, enmeshed in that. Okay. And at this point, all that stuff and all the above is coming up. So one of the things I'm going to do here quietly is as I'm thinking about this, I'm going to send you some of the codes to do with the shedding. I'm going to give you the codes of parasite purging. I'm going to give you the codes of different things like MMS and chlorine dioxide right now. And the digestive enzymes and the serrapeptase and the nattokinase and all these things, I'm actually going to give you the codes for and the sounds of, because I've spent several years, over 6 years, putting in all these different remedies to people. Okay. And one of the things you need to be very, very clear, I told people not to be touching people. And I mean it. You go to the store, you have them drop the change or you have them put it in the bag. I have never touched anyone at a counter yet, whether I'm paying for gas or groceries. And I'm going to tell you, it took someone I have taught and one of my therapists, and I probably reamed her out so loud that they heard me all the way to Winnipeg. But in here, I had someone going every week. This is a known therapist, a well-known therapist, was going every week for years to an acupuncturist that was injected, fully jacked up, really juiced, and putting metal needles into her body. I want you to think about what you're doing. I want you to think about why your loved ones are ill. I want you to think about what happened to them and what's going on. They are getting stronger and stronger in their ability to contaminate, cross-infect, and transfect. And this is where people have got to start making different distinctions in here. You've got curcumin, you've got turpentine, we've got air tamers you can wear, we've got biogeometry, and everyone should have an enema, a colon hydrotherapy, or a Kalima board. Everyone should have enema bags right now. And one of the things Lena's saying, I am a massage therapist. It's my job to touch. I know it's draining my energy, though. I'm doing my best to combat these things and affect to the best of my ability. I will challenge you back. Okay? Most people that were therapists, including me, I've done massage and raindrop and effleurage, and I've been teaching this for like 20 years as well. I do not touch anyone unless I've gone through a complete history. Most people found that whatever it was, you can keep things in here. What happens is that when you take someone that's been injected and then go to the next one that's not, you're the one that's the problem because you're the one that's now contaminating them. You might as well be sleeping with them. That's what's happening. It's going through breastfeeding. The last bunch of women I've dealt with is because they all slept with people and not everyone's blood is contaminated. Mine's not. Even though I got spiked, I had a strong enough immune system to fight it off. I don't have a foreign body. I do not have any graphene in my system. confirmed not only by biofeedback, bioresonance, and Rife and scalar, but also on live blood cell microscopy. Okay? And it doesn't matter. Are you double gloving? There's no reason why anyone shouldn't be double gloving or using nitrile. There is no point, because even in a tight nitrile glove, it's better than touching. And even that, you should be using essential oils, at least at some protection. Even that, I wear air tamers. I am always blowing it. Even the massage therapists and stuff like that, or if they're in those areas still, they've got negative ions and actually air purifiers pushing through the table, right? This is the problem. You're not helping people. You're cross-contaminating. And then you're going to go back to your loved ones and your children, and then you're going to cross-contaminate it. That's why we are finding this in children and in toddlers and in infants, because of what's happened. And so those are some of the things that you've got to be in there and aware that this is actually transmitting. The lay term is shedding. It doesn't shed. It's a cyber load technology. You are getting cyber, basically like a computer. You're taking load. It's a load bear, and you're collapsing. At some point, you will collapse. Okay? And a lot of this stuff sits in the biofield. We may not be able to find it in there. And now we know that it's in a lot of people. It goes dormant. So in other words, they will go look at it, won't show up. We can use that same slide and come back 6 months or a year or 2 years later. And you know what? Now it's alive. So I'm saying we've taken blood out from someone from 2 years ago. It looked okay. And now we put it there. And guess what? It's come alive. So how does that happen? It's called telephoresis. It's called cloaking dormant. They embedded it in people, ready, like a ticking bomb, ready to go off. So those are some of the things in there. Other things, artemisia, wormwood, ozone machines. Okay. Are you blowing ozone in there? Is there UV in there? Are you doing everything to protect yourself? Apopectin. Not everyone can take. That's why I always like people go get some like potassium iodine. Go get potassium iodide, right? Go get some Lugol's. Well, do you know what someone's thyroid is working, what their TSH is? Do you know what their levels are? Probably not. We test for that, but most people don't. And you could put someone into a crisis. Half the time I see people are suggesting things and they shouldn't be. I saw so many people that, like in the super soldier program, oh, they're all targeted. Well, yeah, we're all getting whatever. But you know what? They took the terahertz. They took all those fad supplements, and basically that practitioner gave it to someone, not knowing histories, and basically it was like medical mafia. It was like Iretra genetics, but now we got a Iretra, now we got a natural genetic suicide thing happening. Sea buckthorn, parasite purging, black walnuts, cloves, all your essential oils. Everyone should have at least a dozen to 2 dozen essential oils right now. Chlorine dioxide, otherwise known as water purification drops, known as MMS, CL2, whatever you want to call it, NAC, biofilm busters. What's going to happen is that you're getting this stuff loaded and loaded on, and then one day it just suffocates you, which is like clotting, which is what like biofilm does and biofilm in the guts, and one day you just drop. Why do you think people just drop suddenly? Because they just drop. So in there, probiotics, ashwagandha, Faraday caging, things like that, colloidal silvers, chlorophyll and aloe vera. All these things I'm going to play you the frequency of. Isn't that cool? And then we're going to talk about venoms, because not only do you have venoms, you have artificial venoms, you have synthetic venoms, and guess what? They can give you frequency venoms. Like I can give you frequency. They are doing their own frequencies. That's what you call black magic out here these days. So one of the things in here is very important to have natural antivenoms, natural tobacco, natural nicotine patches, natural homeopathics of tobacco. Look for the natural stuff. I think that's really, really important. So I'm going to leave this, and we're all going to listen just to a few different frequencies. And we're going to do this. I might actually have some time on Sunday. So if you guys are excited, I might do this Sunday later. At some point, are you going to be able to lower the load? You are putting a drop in the bucket. Okay? A lot of people is telling you can reverse this and cleanse it. I'm telling you at this time, with what we know in our arsenal, we cannot reverse it 100%. And as I said, it's like trying to have a computer, cyber technology. It's like trying to throw a herb and essential oil in the little, robot that went down the White House with Melania this weekend. Do you really think that's going to work to shut it down? I don't think so. And that little robot is what's moving inside people. So what's inside is outside, right? So let's take a look. I want you just to close your eyes and listen for a few minutes. These are going to be very low frequencies. They're still going out. And a lot of this is extremely low frequencies or extremely high. So it's going to be outside of your hearing range, kind of like outside your visual load. So let's just take a listen. And I want you to close your eyes, and we're going to spend about 3 minutes just doing this, kind of like tuning forks. And you can hear very tingly tuning forks here. Are you guys able to hear it okay? Give me a yes in the chat room if you can still hear a little bit of this. Should be very, very subtle. So one of the things in here we want, like I said, for people to hear some of this. Excellent, because you know what? It's very low, isn't it? I can hear it, but okay. So I want you to think of it, like that really low 128 hertz, that tuning fork you can barely hear. This is even some of them lower. So now, if you can feel it working on you, I want you to put the word feel into the chat room. Can you feel it? As you close your eyes, can you feel it working somewhere? Again, we're working with voice activated, and that's what I talked about was biofeedback voice activated. So put a I feel or feel in the chat room. Can you feel it working subtly? This is where it's working, not only on the individual I'm working on, it's working on all of us. And sometimes you'll see where it's going up and down. That's called the governing vessel or the governing meridian. You can feel it. Yep. This works, and that's why it's in there. So where can you feel it? So that's great. Lena can feel it. Ancient Vega's doing it. Tell me where you feel it now. So you can feel it around your ears. Where else can you feel it? And that's not high pitched, is it? This is getting more into the lower physical, like more into the root chakra stuff. Like this is getting in there. Like I said, you can barely hear it, but it's feeling. So can you imagine what would happen if you had your headphones, earbuds, and if I had bracelets on someone, and then I did this to your water, and then you took the water in as a better than a homeopathic. They're called electric studios or electrical radionic radiesthesia, right? See, right now, for all of us, it wants to work low, which is really interesting. So it's got 5 to it. And again, stuff that's subtle. Back of the neck, excellent. So what we're doing, and again, we're seeing this. Now it's in your crown and your shoulders. Whoa, okay. So again, it's moving things out. You will never get a tuning fork, a drum, or a cymbal, or rattles, or whatever I'm using to work at this level. Now it's moving into your lungs. Everyone, again, is moving where it needs to go. So if we gave you the frankincense and we gave you the turmeric and I gave you the MMS and whatever I'm giving you the frequency of, that's what it's working on. Are we having fun yet? So how many people have never experienced this before? And I haven't even got it hooked on you. This is just the sounds of all those remedies, right? Can you imagine what happens if we start potentizing it? This is pretty incredible. So this is actually called the Genius Insight. It's from Insight Health Apps. If you want to get a demo or you want to get a session or you want to meet on FaceTime, or I love Zoom because then you can see all this cool stuff happening at you like in real time. This is an advanced form of basically remote, like what I call remote viewing. This is inner viewing. This is remote interviewing. And again, it's computer assistant, right? So how many of you would like to see what your biofield looks like? Put biofield, or put yes in the, audience. So if you want to put biofield, let me know if you want to have a biofield. If you want to, you can get a hold of me, and I'll give you my email here at clanmother13, KLAN, clanmother13 @gmail.com, or get a hold of me on Facebook or Telegram or X or wherever it might be. Okay. So there's my email. So if you want to have a demo, you want to have a session. Okay. Ancient Vega said, you're the reason I have a Genius app 2 weeks before the first lockdown. Is it not working? I mean, it's amazing. And you should see all the libraries I made that are not on the open public source. So if you want really cool stuff, get a hold of me, because I've got like libraries. I've made 4,000 or 400 programs in here. There is, it says, is there a Genius program that has all those remedies? There's not a program. There's a bunch of my programs and libraries that do, definitely, in there. So like I said, there's not an all-in-one thing. There are different things that, we have programmed in, right? So there we go. I want you to see how different those are. Now, one of the things, if you guys have been in the biofeedback or have these for your own desires or own use or your own children or community, on here, do you have a plate? Like I said, I just dealt with someone that had no idea you were supposed to be using headphones. I went, I can't believe you don't have headphones or straps, right? It's not about listening to it. It's about hooking up. You want to get better, you hook up into it. If you're not fully graphinated and juiced up, you need to be doing that. And that is one of the huge things that people need to do, right? Like I said, there are so many different ways, and these are therapists that don't know. There's just no way it's going into the high tones. Every time I go in here, it's like, no, it's low tones. So those are some of the things that people need to do. I've been approached by Ryan Williams, which is really cool. I will be teaching, and I know there's been some stuff Dr. Julia did, and I had a third of the class get a hold of me. Okay. Because I have a thing to do with what's going on in here. And so one of the things I've been asked to do is to bring it down to a more basic level, to teach people how to triage and how to assess. And you need to ask those questions. So even if you're just doing it verbally or whatever, you need to be able to ask those questions appropriately. You're not doing anyone a favor. And it always throws me when doctors say, I would never think to ask anything personal. I'm like, what? Anyway, so those are some of the things here. So if you haven't been in the Zoom with Ryan and some of the, inner circle and the teachers and basically the therapists and basically those of us that are teachers out here in the field, is that look at, and you can go to, it says, as I said, Biofeedbackvoicescan.com is part of our new launch. And that's a great way to bring things in, just like with the Quanta Capsule. So anyway, I want to thank you for joining me. I'm Karenann McDonald. It's been a great pleasure to be with you today. And I think I'm going to do one on Sunday here. I'm going to be in the middle of a move within the next few weeks. So that's why it's been on and off, as we've been doing stuff, demoing stuff, demolishing stuff, renovating stuff. I'm literally in the middle of a physical move. So, and again, if you want, try and get a hold of me. I'm going to try and get all my appointments done in the next week. So if you want to meet with me on Facebook or Zoom or whatever it might be, now is the time. Don't wait. This is not the time to wait. We're going to have a lot of things coming in. And as I said, there's definitely, it looks like a potential lockdown all in here. Okay. There are things that I know. There's things that I've, posted on Facebook that you need to be aware of. Okay. And like I said, it's a cleanup time. So don't get distracted by how many things are blowing up or falling down or whatever it might be, or planes are doing this and ships are doing this and whatever's going on. You need to just be hunkered down and relax. Okay. It's not our monkey, not our zoo, and not our circus right now. We are the healers. We are the ones that will be coming in after the muscle people have done their thing. So our stuff will really be showing up probably in 6 to 8 months. Okay, so right now, enjoy the summer, get your seeds in. I would suggest looking at, hydroponics, things that you can do inside. And if you are going to garden, I would suggest you be dropping your garden and getting it not tilled, but just seriously get something in, get your garden at least 3 to 6 feet. You're going to need the shelter of the earth, like a womb, for that garden. Okay, we have got shakes, booms, rattle, rose, fog, ash, and now we got some weird chemical smell. To do a garden, I would suggest you go down, or at least do what's called a wallapini. Go down maybe 3-4 feet and put some glass or something that will protect it from any kind of fallout. Because as I said, the first 3 to 5 feet, okay, you're not going to be able to get any nutrition. Okay, and you're seeing what's swinging right now with the seeds. That's what I'm saying. Sprout, who cares? And I showed you about doing some different things in here already. I don't care. This pound, for whatever it was, my 30 some dollars or whatever it was, Canadian, this pound is equivalent to 28 pounds of fruit. Okay, so this pound of fruit, dehydrated, is worth how many grocery carts worth of fruit, like fresh fruit. Okay, so learn about that. Very, very in there. And someone just asked before I go, where did I put that? It is Maureen Walton O'Brien. She's on my Facebook, by the way. Okay, so the good darkness, wisdom of the womb, blood. This is all about from female to female to female to recovery. This is the hidden knowledge of the women of the clans of the tribes, and something called parthenogenetics. I'm from OC, California. There you go. Okay, so that's one of the other things too, right? So if you want to take a look at this, okay, there's something I talked about Fiona. I talked about Tim Phillips, Eagle Eye Man. I talked about Dr. Dina Churchill. I showed you that. Saviva, which is known as Lisa Wolf. She's also going to be in there. And if you're in here today, do take a look. I'm gathering all my nation, and nations are not countries. Nations are your national the na. That's your bloodline. So anyone that's AB positive, get a hold of me as well, because we've got some very cool things that will be coming up for all our soul sisters and soul brothers and everything else, right? So anyone that thinks they're a Bear Clan and AB positive, get a hold of me. We want to start setting something up here. Very cool, right? And to get you guys off the grid. So if that's something that excites you, and like I said, we're going to have some really cool terminology coming up. So anyway, you guys take care. Spasibo in my language. Merci beaucoup. Gracias. Arrivederci. Take care. Do you know what? They took the shut off button off here. I don't have an exit button. Oh gosh. Okay, they moved the end stream. How do we test? That's a great question. Get a hold of me on my Facebook, my Clan Mother 13. We'll be talking about some different stuff. We're going to get that Ursuline Bear Clan, Tartarian, Octarian bloodlines back together, right? On there. How much are your sessions? Okay, we'll back up out here. How do we test for the blood type? You missed my first thing, Carlton. It's called an Eldon card. ELDON. Yeah, ELDON. Eldon. Amazon.com. $10. Home testing takes you like not even 2 minutes to do. There's also YouTubes on how to do home Eldon cards too. Next question. How much are your sessions with the biofeedback? Is it on my website? I don't have a website. So if you link to me or get a hold of me, I do stuff on gift barter donations. Okay. So I don't actually have set charges. I'm not for hire. But anyway, so we can discuss what you want to do. Okay. I have different things. If you want to do, just look at it for 5-10 minutes. I want to see what you want to do. There are people can get Quanta capsules where they can pay this, like Inside Health Apps, and get a Quanta cap. And then I can do sessions, and then you can just receive it and listen to it for a week. So there's some really cool options I have right now. And so it's sliding scale donation, basically, is how I operate. So we do it that way. So get a hold of me. I will put it back. Again, it's clanmother13@gmail.com. And if you haven't seen that, I'll just put it up here before I leave, just so you have an idea. And again, like I said, yeah, there we go. We'll put that up for you. So any other questions before I go? Speak now or forever hold your peace in a second here. That's probably, I think, the easiest way. So if you're on my Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, whatever it is, it's just easier for me to do that. So if we go back here and we look at, so right at the bottom there, there's Karenann McDonald. I also have a K.A. Lusick. And you'll see basically clanmother13@gmail, but there's also, I can't actually add anyone onto the Karenann McDonald. So I refer people to my other one, which is K.A. for the Karenann. And that's my maiden Lusick on my matriarchal side. So those are some different things. So we're on Facebook, MeWe, Zoom, Telegram, all those things, Teams now. So I got enough websites that way. So if that helps you, there we go. And how about Friday's session? I think I'm confused. What about Friday's session? Anyway, take a look. Give me an email or message me directly. I'm not quite sure what you mean. How about Friday session? So anyway, so what we're going to do is we'll take a look at that. And as long as I'm available, I went and got a Starlink. So I got a Starlink just in case something happens. I've got a backup here because a lot of these things could be going down. And I'm on Signal as well. So a lot of people that need something, we'll be able to look at alternative means of communication, hopefully. Get a hold of me and send me an email. This is not the place I want to discuss that with. Okay, so just get a hold of me on my Facebook or email, and we'll talk about those things directly. Okay, so have a great weekend, you guys. It's not a weekend, it's a strong end or something. Take care.